Hello everyone, this is Bradley. Welcome to the ninth episode of the beginner series on geometry nodes. I hope you've watched the previous episodes because they will make today's topic much easier to follow. Starting from this episode, we are going to dive into the concept of instances. As we discussed in the introduction episode of this series, instancing is one of the current strengths of geometry nodes. I can grow lots of flowers and trees, or manipulate thousands of knitting strands. Obviously, I'm not going to animate these one by one manually. So what is instancing? It's a form of duplication, and in Blender, there are two types of duplication. Right now, I have a cube, and if you look at its green mesh data property, you will see that it has a name and a shield icon. The object is like a container. It displays the mesh property stored inside it. It's like having a monitor that's displaying the information from a computer, but you can also plug the computer into another monitor. Here I can switch the mesh data property from cube to Suzanne, and then this monitor shows Suzanne instead of a cube. This is the relationship between an object and a mesh. Now, let's go back to our cube mesh. In Blender, there are two types of duplication. One type uses Shift+D, so we create a new object, but we also create a new mesh data property called the cube001. These two meshes are completely separate, so I can edit each one independently. Alternatively, I can use Alt+D. In this case, we create a new object, but we do not generate a new mesh data property. Our cube is still using the same mesh data. We now have a user count of 2, which means two objects are using the same mesh data. If I edit one, you can see the other object changes as well, because they are using the same mesh data property. This linkage is similar to the instancing we often refer to. Because you change one, you change all linked copies. The benefit of this system is that it minimizes the cost of having too many separate copies, which means you need less RAM and place less demand on the CPU and the GPU. This hardware-friendly method, of course, has its limitations and trade-offs. However, for many everyday situations, it's good enough. At the object level, although the mesh is linked, you can still change the object transform, such as location, rotation, and scale. Nevertheless, because the mesh is linked, if you change the material on one object, you also change the material on the other. In Blender, materials are actually part of the mesh. Each polygon of the mesh determines which material to use, as you can select a polygon and assign your desired material. For linked geometry, just as editing one object in edit mode affects all linked geometry, assigning a material to one will also update the material assignment on the others. These features and limitations also apply to our geometry node system. Now, let's move on to how do we generate instances in geometry nodes. If you're familiar with the node names, you may already know the answer. We have geometry to instance and instance on points. Geometry to instance converts the geometry to instance as its name suggests. It just has its own special use cases in some very specific situations. We may discuss these situations later in this series. Therefore, most of the time, when you're working in geometry nodes, instance on points is basically the primary way to generate instances. The node requires a points input and an instance input. Basically, you provide the points to define where you want to distribute instances, and then the node outputs multiple instances. For example, here I want cones to be instanced on the vertices of a cube. To do it the bureaucratic way, I need to convert the mesh to points. You can literally search for the mesh to points node and find it immediately, plug them into instance on points, and then convert a cone from geometry to an instance. our final output becomes cone instances on the cube vertices. Nevertheless, for user convenience, the instance on points node accepts several exceptions that allow you to use points without explicit conversions. For example, we do not actually need a mesh to points in this case. We remove it and it still works perfectly. Another exception is that you do not need to convert the geometry to an instance in this case. The socket simply indicates that whatever geometry you input will become the instanced geometry. It's important to note that these are exceptions provided for user convenience. Normally, if you do something similar with setPointRadius, which also has a point socket, Blender will display warnings saying that the input geometry type is not supported. And in this case, you would need a specific conversion node, like meshed points, to resolve the warning, so that the point has been shown and you can change the radius of it. Similarly, if you output the cone directly to rotate instances node with this instance socket, it will also give you another warning about realized data. In this case, it means a similar kind of thing, and you can use geometry to instance to resolve the warning and make it functioning. On the other hand, by default, instance on points works on the point domain. This means that if you want to instance our cones on the face centers, you would still need meshed points and change it to face domain. Otherwise, it will always instance on vertices. There are other small exceptions and special cases, but these are minor details that you will probably figure out by yourself as you gain more experience with geometry nodes, or we will discuss them specifically later. Anyway, now we have our cone instances. These instances are somewhat similar to the object containers we discussed earlier. We can change their position, rotation, and scale. The position is basically the position of the cube vertices, which you can modify using setPositionNode. Rotation and scales behave exactly as you would expect. Other than the settings directly on the node, you can also modify them afterwards using translate instance, rotate instances, and scale instances. Nevertheless, as we showed earlier, materials cannot be different across linked instances. If we simply have a cube, I can use compare with index to select the specific polygons. For example, I set the material to red so that the entire cube becomes red. Then I add another set material node with a green material and select the polygon with an index 6. You can see that within this red cube, one face becomes green. Now let's apply the same logic to our cube instances. You will find that all of our cubes have a green polygons on one side. The result is similar to what we saw earlier with the cube mesh, except now it happens on every cube instance. There are several points I want to emphasize here. 1. setMaterial doesn't support instances because instances must share the same material and geometry. You cannot put material A on one and material B on another as long as they remain linked instances. 2. The setMaterial node functions by accessing the mesh information inside the instances. And this is not just for material, but many geometry operations, such as extrude mesh node. Here, I extrude the mesh it works, and if I input a random value node, you can see each side of our cube is having a bit of random length of extrusion. Nevertheless, all instances share identical randomness on their respective face, no matter how I change the seed. A common solution is to use a node called realize instance. In Tooltip, you can find it's outputting a mesh instead of previous instances, and therefore, meshes are not linked. Each face can be extruded independently, and you can assign a material to a specific polygon. The downside is that you lose the performance benefits of instancing. You can pay attention to the time I have on the left upper corner. If I increase the count of instancing, realize it or not, will have a huge performance impact. As a result, many users become frightened of the realized instance node. Nevertheless, please understand that geometry variation fundamentally contradicts the idea of instancing. While we can discuss various workarounds or cheating methods, users should maintain realistic expectations about how strict this limitation is. Realized instance is not really an evil node. You must decide whether you need better performance or whether you are willing to sacrifice some performance in exchange for greater flexibility. In this case, for example, 1 millisecond is really not a frightening number. Instancing also does not always mean good performance. For example, here I have a cube with 800 subdivisions on each axis. I animate it with a set position node by using SynTime node on the axis to offset it upwards. Playing the animation, the cube is moving upwards with a terribly low FPS. If I instead use geometry to instance and translate instance to create similar behavior, you will see that the performance is still terrible because of the performance bottleneck happening earlier in the node tree. You may say, hey, translate instance takes less than 0.1 milliseconds, and the set position takes 5 milliseconds. But this improvement is really minimal compared to what you are experiencing. So there will not be a real performance improvement simply because you promote instancing as a solution. Likewise, nothing terrible automatically happens just because you are forced to realize the instance. Ultimately, it's the user's responsibility to decide whether the trade-off is worthwhile. Either you get better performance with restricted functionality, or accept somewhat lower performance in exchange for greater flexibility. Please do not stigmatize realized instances. The developer created the nodes because there are legitimate reasons for it to exist. Even though I will share many techniques that may help you avoid it whenever possible, you should maintain realistic expectations and make decisions based on your actual needs. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will probably see you next time.